Hello, welcome back to my channel, and today we're taking a look at Crysis 3 Remastered with 4070 Ti and i5-96K. So this game came out roughly the same time as Crysis 2 Remastered, good old 2022. As per requirements, the minimum GPU is a GTX 1060 and the recommended GPU is 1660 Ti. Now, obviously the same as the remastered versions, there is an RTX integration in this game, and it does support DLSS, which we will not use. So let's have a look at the settings first. We're going with the 4K native, anti-aliasing at the highest value of SMA 2TX. Textures at very high, no vertical sync, and for advanced we're going with very high everywhere apart from DLSS, which is turned off for this run, and anisotropic filtering at times 16, which I believe is kind of unnecessary, but let's just put the 4070 throughout its paces. Ray tracing is also very high, so we'll see how it goes. If this game is anything as Crysis 2, the ray tracing will be taking a huge chunk of our frames, but then again, let's see how the raw performance is at the current stage, and we'll just go from there really. So when it comes to the remastered versions, and I've actually, out of curiosity, I played the previous versions, not the remastered ones. All of them work absolutely fine on Windows 10 and 11, so I would say you're not exactly losing too much when it comes to the performance or graphical fidelity, because the new hardware we currently have is able to cope with that, absolutely no issues. So what we have here, this is one of the most famous levels, I believe, chosen by the tall grass and the buildings and whatnot, and honestly, straight off the bat, we're pulling 7.6 gigs of allocated video memory, 9.5 of RAM, and we're kind of below 60 frames, which is not surprising. I mean, end of the day, as you can see, the sharpness of the image is slightly better than the original one. The textures are kind of higher res, I believe. Some simplified reflections. And yeah, we are literally at the same frame rate as with Crysis 2, which is around 40-ish frames. So we'll see how it goes outside. I just drop in something somewhere, and I'm just gonna have this.
Hope it's worth it.
Should be good for now. I forgot that we need to do this. Right, let's have a quick glance of the outside world and we'll go from there. I think the moment we disable ray tracing, we're gonna be exactly in the same ballpark with the Crysis 2, which is around 75, 70-ish frames. But even right now, I would say it actually looks pretty decent. A little bit of length for here.
Not that you'd notice inside that suit, but it's hotter than a vindaloo in here. This is how it all started.
Right, so
Signed up with Cell for cheap energy. Cell would generate.
I remember back in the day when Crysis 3 launched, it was one of those titles that was kind of hard to run for certain people and certain hardware specs. And I wouldn't say that this is too much different. When it comes to the Crysis remastered versions, I honestly have no idea what gives, because in my opinion we could have easily lived without them, but hey ho, it is how it is.
Means they only blow up unauthorized, like us. That should be enough. Come on.
Yeah, the performance is pretty much as I expected, like literally Crysis 2 level. I'm not sure if the engine they're using has any sort of overhaul in comparison to the Crysis 2,
What's the matter?
but visually I would say it's actually pretty much on point, exactly the same. So yeah, right. Same as before, let's turn off the ray tracing. I can just put it on medium, see what happens. I would expect that we're actually going to be way above 45 frames here.
Scanning sector
And well, we are above about 67 frames. Okay, right, got it. So in general, and this is just my opinion here, both Crysis 2 and Crysis 3 games are actually optimized for DLSS more than anything else. So if you want to have this ray tracing eye candy for the shadows and global illumination and all these kind of sharp shadows of objects, you probably want to go with ray tracing on medium and just put DLSS on performance or balanced. You're not gonna lose too much, and I wouldn't say there's a lot of blur to be seen, so we'll see how it goes. So again, same as with Crysis 2, the moment you turn off the ray tracing, you actually are way above 60 frames. Well, I wouldn't say way above, but you are above 60 frames, which probably you will drop down below at some degree. Depends on a scene, and we'll try to just leg it through these 3 places, grab the gun, shoot off the turret, and move on and see how well or bad that performs. But overall, I would say this is definitely more playable than the original Crysis 3 when it just launched. And then again, 4070 Ti is relatively speedy card when it comes to it, and I would say 4K maxed out. Not exactly its strong suit when it comes to certain titles. I would say 2K, you're probably gonna be absolutely fine with it. And in all honesty, even 3000 cards like 3060 probably will actually do this title with no issues. It's gonna just run absolutely perfect. But yeah, I don't know. I would say it's not surprising. Like, it's the moment I saw how Crysis 2 performs and looks, Crysis 3 is just, in my opinion, nearly the same game. You only have slightly different weapons. You play as a prophet, you have a bow, and you know, you just have a little bit more playstyle variety when it comes to it. Outside of that, it's still the same good old Crysis we all know. So yeah, I would say the company definitely learned from the Crysis Remastered and how they actually need to tweak the engine in the game. So I would say it clearly shows, you know, it's leaps and bounds in comparison performance-wise to original Crysis Remaster. And a lot of people were going back to the original Crysis from 2007, so they can play it in 4K, way above 200 frames at any given moment with a relatively new GPUs, and you know, that's the end of it. But even though I cannot really say that Crysis 3 does not look good, it does. But yeah, then again, like, can you run Crysis? That mostly applies only for the original remaster rather than the 2 or 3. And yeah, this game was actually relatively big hit when it just came out. So let's go into the actual grass. So yeah, we are below 60 frames slightly, which is not surprising considering anti-aliasing is actually doing its work. Anisotropy filtering is times 16. So that will definitely drop us for at least a couple frames here or there. So I wouldn't say that that's a big surprise at any given moment. But then again, I wouldn't say that this game actually feels that it needs to run constant 60 or above. And specifically for 4K gameplay and this game itself, I would say, you know, it's fair game. You know, it's nothing unexpected, at least in my point of view, because it's actually pretty decent. Like, back in the day when this game just came out, I couldn't run it, like, literally in normal frame rate at all. So in comparison to that, this is already an improvement, a vast improvement for everything involved. So yeah, absolutely playable. Of course, I'm not gonna preach about DLSS. I know a lot of people have some hard feelings in regards that particular technology bit, but then again, you know, if you're struggling with performance and you're dropping down the settings and you know you're not getting the eye candy and you do it just for the performance, then I would say you're not exactly losing too much with the DLSS. And obviously you can hunt for some artifacts or blurs or whatnot. But you really need to ask yourself, like, what do you want? Do you want performance or you want graphical fidelity? And end of the day, it's gonna be one of two.
Fuck me. How you firing that? Jesus. I'm like, you did it. But that is fucking beautiful.
I mean, the objects actually, and you know, majority of the things does look slightly better, I would want to say, but I don't know if that actually gives you too much of a difference, all things considered.
Give me an update on your position.
It definitely looks nicer, but I don't know if it looks better than the original. I know there's been a couple YouTube videos I've seen where people are doing spot the difference, and they play the regular versions and then they play remastered, and you know, kind of like scene by scene comparisons, and majority of the time it's very hard to tell the difference between the two.
Heads up, Prophet. Cell reinforcements.
I would literally want to say that, you know, this is not bad at all. All things considered, this is actually more than playable. This is fine. It could run slightly better, but then again, you know, from considering that majority of the Crysis titles always were more about single core performance, and the remaster should be addressing the multi-core threading and rendering, which takes advantage of multiple cores. I would say that even currently, if you look at it, the CPU is actually being engaged in all cores, and 96K only has 6 cores and no hyperthreading, so I wouldn't say that it's the worst experience so far. It could be slightly better, you know, like all things considered. If I overclocked it, it probably would be a bit smoother. But in general, considering how much vegetation we have and how things are looking and running, I would say it's kind of expected, you know. Again, 4K Ultra native. Who would do that? Only a madman would do that, and we are these madmans. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, performance-wise, it does act exactly like Crysis 2. Maybe slightly below. But I wouldn't say that it's a major, you know, showstopper when it comes to this game. Depends on the scene, and you're not gonna have too many vegetation scenes. You know, there will be some levels with the hunters. You will have mostly secluded areas and stuff like this. So I don't know if one segment is performing like this, then it might just be a one-off. Obviously, you would need to do multiple runs for it to see, but I don't know. It kind of feels pretty okay for now.
Come on. We'll cut through the tunnels to the train yard.
But yeah.
Hang on. I'm almost there.
I think there was some mines we had to disable first. Or something, or is that gonna be the hunter patch? Right, here we are. I think majority of the time people are playing this game, it was more because of the bow and arrow rather than anything else. We could hack the turret. Hacking was implemented since give or take. I don't think Crysis 2 had hacking of the turrets, but it kind of does elevate your gameplay a little bit. Also makes it slightly easier. You can find what needs to be hacked and how and when and why.
What the fuck happened here? Check their black boxes. Find out how they died. I'm going topside. See what's going on.
Holy fuck! Fire! Fire! Bat out! Out of the grass! Move! Shit! Man down. You hear that?
Well, I think you guys actually seen enough. This is the performance of native 4K with a 4070 Ti, and I think it's actually pretty decent, all things considered. Once we defeat the hunters, you can actually progress through, so it's not exactly that bad. It's just one of these segments that you kind of need to suffer through a bit. I say suffer through, but you know, it's quite engaging when you look for it, but I wouldn't say that you would essentially lose too much, because you just need to be engaged, you know, kind of pay attention to what you're doing. And at this point I kind of consider myself that the run is actually finished. Where is that guy? Come on. Anyhow, you guys can go and find that one hunter, or we can just wait until it comes here. But yeah, this essentially is the performance, and I would say it's definitely improved. It is not bad at all. Could always be better or worse, depends how you look at it. But all things considered, I would say it's not too bad. It's okay. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all next time. Over and out.